Hi, and welcome to another edition of Seniors Today. I'm your host, Tom Marti, and we have here today one of my favorite people in Vallejo, former Mayor Anthony Intintolli, who is also the Vice Chair of the Water Emergency Transportation Authority.
Very well done.
Well,
Very
thank you. Glad you could make it today. You know, we before we started the camera, we were sharing some old stories that kind of got us into a fit of levity, but I'm going to try to keep it under control for the duration of the show.
We need to.
So again, it's good to have you here today.
Thank you very much, Tom. Thank you.
So one of the important things, especially right now, with all the concerns over the BART strike,
Yes.
and possibly the ATU, the buses have been talking about striking too.
They have, and that would be really a much bigger problem than we had a couple of months ago.
Mm-hmm. But the Water Emergency Transportation Authority was created by former pro tem in the Senate, Parada, I believe.
Mm-hmm.
And what happened was it took the operational, or maybe you could tell me, maybe it'd be better for you to explain it than for me to explain it, but WETA, Water Emergency Transportation Authority, takes the Vallejo Ferry and incorporates it into another organization.
Right. As things stood in the beginning, we were operating our own ferry service. Alameda had theirs, and there was a action taken by the state legislature to combine the existing ferry services, other than the Golden Gate Ferry, into one organization. The rationale at the time was to create an agency, a single agency, which could handle services throughout the bay in a coordinated way and hopefully increase the amount of money that's available to operate and to expand ferry service. That was the intention. As you well know, because you were there, I was there when it happened, and our concern was that we didn't want to lose control of the ferry service, our own. Alameda had a similar concern. But it did happen, and once it happened, then it became important for Vallejo to have a presence on the board. And that continues to be my concern, that there be a presence on that board of a Vallejo representative.
Mm-hmm. And so with the potential BART strike, I think they service close to 500,000 passengers a day. Mm-hmm. Those people have to get across the bay somehow, and so the ferries have come forward and increased their service. And
they have. We regularly have a fleet of 11 boats, typically on the water at any given time. There's 8, and during the strike, if there is another strike, we're planning to operate, I think, 12 boats. And the last time this happened, it was sufficiently efficient such that I did not receive a single complaint from anyone who chose to use that as an optional service, as the ferries for transportation. Everyone seemed to be very pleased with the outcome. There was a very nice article in the Chronicle congratulating the ferry management and how they handle that emergency.
Mm-hmm. Now, when you clearly you can't get 500,000 people on the ferries.
No.
But it makes a dent in the crunch, because
Right.
there are other options. But also, there would be arrangements made to increase bus service as well.
Yes, there would be an increase in the number of buses that are available, as well as the ferry service. As you know, we've operated buses, as well as the ferry service to San Francisco for some years. Right now, I think that's probably what we'll have to do, is both ferries, because there aren't enough boats, as you well know, to handle that.
So currently there's 4 ferries in the Vallejo fleet.
That's right.
And one of them has a really unusual name. I think it's Intintolli.
It's the Mare Island.
Oh, the Mare. Yeah.
That's the unusual name.
So we have
beautiful boats.
Yeah, the Intintolli. Yeah, it is
Particularly
very handsome.
Very handsome
boat.
Yeah. Yeah.
But we have that one, the Mare Island, the Vallejo,
Mhm.
and then what's the other one?
Solano.
Solano, okay. So we have all the,
Good thing I remembered.
we have all the bases covered.
We have all the bases covered. We have a wonderful service going, and people seem to enjoy it. You remember Dan Donahue, who we served with. He was a wonderful councilman, but his dream was to get people to the ballpark. And you remember, I think, well, we all were involved in it, but it was Dan that I think championed that effort, as I recall. And that particular run to the AT&T ballpark is very popular, and it well received, very well received.
Unfortunately, we didn't get to take full advantage of it this year.
No, we
The
didn't.
Giants didn't quite.
No, we didn't quite make it this
Yeah.
year. But on the other hand, even without that, the ferry service has been growing tremendously this year, and it has been over the last. You know, we had a slump that started when there was the recession around 2008, 7, 8, 9, 10. We started recovering in 2010 in terms of ridership, but now it's double digit. And it's and my experience, and I think yours, has been that when you get people onto the ferry, whatever the reason, whether it's unfortunately, and many years ago it was the earthquake in 1989, whether it's a strike or whatever occurs where people need to try it out, they frequently stay with it. They love it. So we seem to be holding on to the ridership that the increase that we've experienced. I think the city of Vallejo, on their news article that they sent out in email, stated that we have, I think, 20,000 additional riders this fiscal year over last fiscal year.
Wow.
Yeah, that's quite a lot.
Yeah, that's significant.
So the percentage, I get a weekly report on the status of the Vallejo Ferry and where we are with it. And I think the last report last week gave a 22% increase over last fiscal year thus far.
Wow.
So that's a lot. And there is a recovery going on. I think we all recognize that, particularly in San Francisco. So the jobs are that disappeared for a while are coming back, and people need to get there and so forth. So things are looking well. They're looking good throughout the service.
Well, when you look at taking the ferry from Vallejo as opposed to driving, you know, obviously gas, wear and tear in the car, bridge toll, parking in San Francisco. It probably makes a lot of sense economically for people to consider that option.
Oh, I think it does. I don't know how, well, it is expensive. If you're doing a day pass as an adult, it's $24. But if you're a real adult like us, it's
Senior.
It's a senior, and this is a senior program, and I think the seniors need to know that they can ride that ferry for $13 round trip any day.
13?
13.
Wow.
So it's a huge discount. It's available to seniors. It's available to people who, even if they haven't reached 65, if they're on Medicare for any reason, if they're disabled, youth between 6 and 12 also get that $13 fare. All those categories get the $13 fare. So, and if you're commuting, it's well below the $24 for
Yeah, is it
day
100?
pass. It's $290 round trip, through $290 a month, and you can come and go as many times as you want.
So it could be $10 a day.
Yeah. So it's, and then the city was very, very good when they started parking, charging for parking. It's reasonable. It's $5 a day if you're doing it by the day, and if you're doing it by the month, it's $20 a month. So, and again, you park as often as you want to during the month. So, I think the intention was to pay for the maintenance of the parking garage that the ferry riders use, and that seems fair to me.
Mm-hmm.
So that's the newest thing that's happened with regard to Vallejo's Ferry, is the opening of that parking garage, and that's the first phase of the parking plans. And then I noticed recently visiting the downtown post office that the post office is considering, has agreed, subject to hearings and so forth and complaints, to move its facility, part of its facility, well, all of its facility there where it's currently located, and that'll be the second phase of the parking on the waterfront. And they'll keep, as I understand, the commercial part of the post office, where we go pick up mail, post office boxes, buy stamps. That will still be in the downtown, but in a different location in the downtown.
Mm-hmm.
And then all those trucks and everything will be moved to another location.
Yeah, that'll be exciting. With the other phase 2 of the parking structure is supposed to be 600 spaces or
I think so.
something like that.
Yeah. Which is important. I mean, that we have it available, because hopefully, with the recovery, the population will continue to increase in the county and in Napa and so forth, and the ferry service will grow.
Did you see a change in ridership briefly when the parking fee was enacted?
No.
So
No.
there were complaints about it, but it didn't
No.
change the consumer behavior?
No.
Well, that's probably good. So one of the things that's talked about all the time is with ferries and buses, and that is fare box recovery.
Yeah.
How's the ferry doing on the fare box?
Well, one of the things that's kind of interesting is folks generally believe that, think that the ferry operates at a profit. No public transportation operates at a profit, and that's true of whether it's buses, trains, ferries, whatever. They're heavily subsidized, all of them. In fact, bus service is subsidized to the point of about 76 cents on the dollar. In other words, from the fare box, they only get like 24 cents on the dollar against the expenses of running the service. So each one, Metropolitan Transportation Commission sets the expected hoped for fare box return for ferries, and for buses it's something in the neighborhood of 24 or 25 cents on the dollar. For ferries it's 40 cents, and so they expect that you'll get 40% of your expenses from the fare box. The rest of the money that is available to run the ferry services comes from the bridge tolls. It's a subsidy directly from the bridge tolls. And right now it comes to about $18 million a year. The rest, to run all of the ferries, we're now taking in about $28 million and spending $28 million to run all of the ferries.
Mm-hmm.
And as I say, about 42% of that is from fare box. Each service has a different fare box return. Ours currently for Vallejo is about the same as system-wide. It's about 42%.
That's pretty significant.
Yes, and it's been higher, but with all of the expenses that we've incurred in recent years, the run-up of fuel costs, for example, Vallejo's service is one of the highest cost service because of the amount of fuel that we use. We're the longest route.
Yeah, you have to go further.
We're the longest route. Now we're hoping, because of what the agency has agreed to do is invest $30 million on a maintenance facility on Mare Island, and we'll be constructing that within the next, beginning construction within about a year, or less than a year, well within the year. But that will allow us to store fuel. So, because today we purchase it at a daily rate, which is the highest rate, And so if you can store 50,000 gallons, you can do some bargain purchasing.
Mm-hmm. So the current facility or maintenance facility for the ferry is just south of the Wickles Causeway or the
That's right.
Mare Island Bridge.
That's right.
And it's going to be moving south along
It'll
the
be-
shore,
That's right.
down close to the gantries in the center of the waterfront.
Correct. Yeah.
And I heard that there might also be some service for passengers across the channel.
Yes, it's anticipated that when it's fully built out, the new maintenance facility, that we'll have the ability to pick up people at Mare Island. Now, it wouldn't be I should clarify, it won't be where they'll get on the boat at Mare Island and then go directly to San Francisco. They'll get on a boat at Mare Island. It'll come over to Vallejo across the Napa, right across the river, pick up the people at the regular ferry terminal, and then go on with them to the city. Yeah, but it will be convenient for people that are living on the
That'll
island.
be interesting that theoretically somebody that didn't want to wait in line on the Vallejo side might drive over to Mare Island to get on the boat first.
Yeah, well, hopefully, I mean, that is I like to think that's a happy problem, because we certainly want to see the boats as full as possible. We don't want to see it where people are fighting for it.
Well, I know that in
See.
the morning and the commute times, there's a wait, and sometimes people that are in line don't get on the ferry and they end up taking a bus instead,
Yes,
right?
Yes. We've run buses, we've run some buses and continue to do it, because we don't want people waiting for buses.
Yeah, in the
unnecessarily.
morning, isn't it like every half hour or maybe even more frequently early on?
I can't, I'm not sure of that.
Uh-huh.
I'd have to look at the schedule again, which brings up something else. We have, that is, San Francisco Bay Ferry Service has a really good website, and it's got everything on it. It even has an item in it where you can type in where you are, where you want to go, and it will tell you how to get there and what it will cost and so forth. And the schedule for the buses is there, the schedule for the ferries is there, and it is the best source, because this is a typical printed ferry schedule, but because of all the variables that can happen, including a strike or whatever, the best source of information is that website, because we can get the information out immediately. I checked it this morning. It's loaded with information, like, for example, the $13 round trip for seniors is on there. And I'm astonished at how many seniors don't know that, that they can ride that for that
And you have
price.
to be 65 or qualified for Medicare.
Or handicapped. There's a card. The proof of age could be your driver's license.
Which one? The one that we made last week?
Yeah.
Well, that's pretty interesting. Can you share with us the website? Do you have that?
www.sanfranciscobayferry.com.
SanFranciscoBayFerry.com. All right. So
I wrote it down here because I was afraid you'd ask, and I'd have a moment where I wasn't recovering.
Well, on this show, moments are okay.
Okay.
Yeah. Maybe someday we'll think about renaming the show to Senior Moment.
Oh, well.
Maybe we'll get some feedback from
In
our
that case, I'll
audience
be
on
glad
that
to
one.
come back.
Oh, just in case you don't remember.
Yeah.
The Golden Gate Ferry is part of a different district, right? That's not
That's
under
right.
the
They're
umbrella.
not financed. The Golden Gate Ferry is not financed. It's not a state-owned. It's not financed by state-owned bridges. That's the difference. Alameda and Vallejo are both financed by the tolls from state-owned bridges, and so they have the Golden Gate has its own district, its own board of directors, its own everything.
The Golden Gate Transportation Authority or
Something like that.
whatever they're called. So there's also a Tiburon Ferry, and is that private as well?
I think so.
So the ferries would be the Alameda, the Vallejo Ferry, and
Harbor Bay.
Harbor Bay. Is there another one in the works?
Well, there's South San Francisco,
Uh-huh.
and the South San Francisco ferry service started about a year ago, maybe 18 months now. And it's a new ferry service. It has, according to the MTC regulations rules, when you start new service, it has 3 years to acquire a 40% return on fare box. Now that's a pretty difficult item to reach in such a short time. I remember that it took a lot of time to grow the Vallejo ferry to where it was achieving that kind of fare box return. I'm hopeful that that as we go forward with ferry service, that they'll pay a lot of attention to the overall fare box return for the system.